Welcome to today's episode of the Ascension Cast. We have a very special guest, Kevin of Colorado. Excellent to have you on.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. Always up for going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm blessed. I get to talk to you on a daily basis. We talk about the secrets of the universe, but today we're going to simplify it. Instead of lofty esoteric ideas, I just kind of want to talk about some of the simple truths of how to transform your life. And a lot of it's just taking responsibility, thinking, putting effort in. So one of the topics we talked about yesterday was how people are like, think happy thoughts and it's going to happen. I can't tell you how many hippies in Puna, Hawaii are like, I'm going to be a millionaire. Forget that, a billionaire. I'm thinking happy thoughts about it every day. But they don't put energy to it. They don't put action behind that energy. So they don't even have channels. If someone wanted to give them $1 million, they're incapable of receiving it because, let's say, electronically, they don't have a bank account. If they give them gold, bars of gold, they don't have a safe to put it in. So you have a very unique way, but I mean, we're basically saying the same thing. How do you explain that?
I believe I have what I call the 4 principles of manifestation. And it's broken down from obscure, arcane, esoteric constructs that are probably longer than the records we have history of. And it breaks it down into 4 steps. The first step is vision. You have to be able to visualize what your objective goal is and put yourself in the position of being deserving and being worthy of that vision. If you cannot put it into a realistic perspective of yourself being worthy of that vision, it's not going to happen. The second step, force, applying your emotional energy to it, applying your intellectual energy to it, and working towards bringing that vision into the tangible world. To continue that work, you have to do the work. You have to put the action into process. If, for example, you're looking to manifest a car and you don't have a driver's license, you don't have a place to park the car, you don't have the money to maintain a vehicle, even if a vehicle is brought to you, it is not going to remain to you or stay functional to you because you're not living in alignment with that reality. And that is the 4th step, living in alignment with it and having it within the circle of realistic influence, the circle of probability.
That's such an eloquent way of putting it. And, there's so many examples of this. People that have won the lottery file for bankruptcy shortly thereafter. They artificially got handed something that they weren't capable of maintaining. If you didn't build it, you can't maintain it. So much. Yeah, that's a wonderful way of putting it.
So many of the spiritual teachings and the occult teachings are what I call spiritual bypassing. They are eliminating the real work and focusing on the concepts of basically blind faith.
Yeah. That's one of the biggest things I've seen in the spiritual community. They get that, feeling it and the mental aspects behind it, but they don't actually put it into action. They don't take any steps towards making it manifest into reality. It's not actualized because they didn't take the proper steps to actualize it. Like I'm always taken care of, but sometimes that requires me working my ass off to make ends meet. I've scrubbed toilets. I've used a shovel extensively. I've done a lot of hard labor through my day. Even right now, in between workshops and sessions in Ohio, it's really slow. So what am I doing? I'm doing DoorDash. I'm doing Walmart Spark. It's not glorious. It's not my path. But you know what? It's moving me forward so I can then get the stage I need to help more people.
Exactly. It comes down to commitment to your cause. Even if you're doing other things, you can still be committed to your cause and your purpose.
Yeah. And sometimes it's those little steps in the right direction. Everybody wants instant gratification in this day and age where videos are 15 seconds
Oh,
long and then
absolutely. Yeah.
you get the next video, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, and people get addicted to that instant gratification. Um, it sometimes it's not glorious, it's not fun. There's that adage: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So, I mean, you do that in a very real way, the way you live in such a simple lifestyle. It's amazing. It's freeing. But you literally have to chop wood, carry water. When I was living out off grid in the RV, it gave a whole new, more tangible meaning to chop wood, carry water, because I literally had to chop wood to stay warm and carry water. So we had water.
Yeah. The big problem with our society is we've become so used to being catered to and things being brought to us through things like Walmart, Spark, and Amazon and whatever. I mean, we can have our needs met without ever having to leave the house. And most people have lost touch with where those things come from. They've lost touch with the concept of even small farms. They're practically a dead breed. I mean, because of the factory farming and the industrialization. Most people, if your grocery store is shut down because of a power outage or whatever, most people would die of starvation within a week.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we saw this with Hurricane Sandy. Within 2 days of the hurricane going through New York City, people are eating out of dumpsters.
Yeah.
I mean, 2 or 3 generations ago, we were self-sufficient. Now, if you took someone and put them out in the country and gave them even all the right tools, again, if you didn't build it, you can't
They'd have
maintain it.
no idea how to use them.
Yeah, they would not be able to understand how to survive. Whereas you literally built your house out of materials from the land. You built an earthen home. Not many people can do that. And okay, they might have seen a video on TikTok where some guy builds this thing in a fast forwarded way, and he's got a cool earth home, but that's just for show. He built a 1-room cabin that he can sleep in overnight, but it's not built for long-term sustainability. Whereas if you build a homestead like you have, or with mine, it's an off-grid RV, so it's basically a moving homestead. I can survive indefinitely off-grid.
The other important aspect to be mindful of is be respectful of your environment. Pay attention to what resources are provided. There's timbers and forests and stuff that are not far from here, but I didn't have a vehicle. I still don't have a vehicle that runs. So I had to make use of what was here. What was here? There's plenty of fucking sand. I'm in the desert. So I ordered sandbags and had them shipped in by the 100, unfilled, and filled them, dug out the foundation. As I was digging out the foundation, I was using that soil to backfill the walls and to fill the sandbags.
You had the thought, you had the energy, and you had the physical action of doing it and making that and actualizing your vision.
Yeah. And it was in alignment with my reality.
Yeah.
It is a perfect example of practice what you preach.
Yeah. And sometimes people, especially nowadays, where nobody was allowed to get an F on their paper, nobody had red ink saying you're wrong. It was check minus, unsatisfactory, not you failed, you flunked, you suck, do better. So everybody's all concerned about emotions and, protecting people's, self-esteem. That has created a weak generation. Hard times make strong men. Strong men make easy times. Easy times make weak men. So
Yeah.
we've been going through this really easy time. We haven't had war on American soil in any meaningful way in a very long time. The people of
And we're
America.
not going to, because of the simple fact we are one of the most armed nations as a civilian.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think we have 40 or
Our
60% of all
the
total
retired
firearms.
military alone are enough to form a very strong militia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even before the forced multipliers of modern firearms, the Japanese back in the day, when Americans were only armed with hunting rifles and shotguns, the Japanese Emperor Hirohito said, we cannot invade the American mainland. There will be a gun hiding behind every blade of grass. And guess what? That was a good enough deterrent for Japanese from launching a attack on the American mainland.
Unfortunately, we now have remote military and missiles and drones and things like that. So unfortunately, now the technology is advanced enough that they could attack us without boots on the ground, without soldiers being here, and could do a lot of damage. I think people have lost sight of that reality.
Yeah. I mean, we are vulnerable. We have this false bravado that we're invincible, but we are vulnerable. However, you look at the war in Ukraine, they're using cheap and easy tactics to blow up tanks. They're using suicide drones. I mean, we could easily modify store-bought drones to, fend off tanks like they're doing in the Ukraine. Or look at the Afghanistan example. A barely out of the Stone Age people fend off the Brits, the Russians, or the Soviet Union, and defeated the United States, all with very limited technology. We have thermal
Honestly,
vision.
the victor of a war is not the most technologically advanced. It is the most determined and the most patient.
Yeah, yeah. And, I've heard an adage, this may be true for older wars. I don't know if it's still true for modern wars, but he with the most witches wins the war. So people don't understand, back in the Mayan times, they would study the skies and they would look at the orbits and basically astrology, and they'd base their war campaigns off of astrology. So if the astrology wasn't good to go to war, they wouldn't. Or like illustrated in the 300, before they went to war, they consulted the oracle.
Yeah.
So America does have that. We have the remote viewing programs. We have.
Oh yeah, we've had it for over 70 years.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting to, all that's out of the view of public. Most people live in the mundane.
Oh, absolutely. Most people have no ability to even comprehend the possibility of remote viewing or time travel. I mean, time travel in a mental construct is very real. I've done it many times. But it's not something that I can even teach, because it's just something that I know. It comes as a level of gnosis from the amount of studies and the amount of work that I've done.
Yeah, it's apocryphon, knowledge that can't be taught. Yeah, and so much. The Aboriginals were in Australia were very big with that, because they have abilities that they can't explain. They just can do it. They have these innate abilities,
and they don't need to understand it. That's the problem we get as human beings. We get so trapped in needing to have the understanding. We don't understand how cell phones work for a majority of us, but that doesn't mean they don't work.
Yeah. That's magic is just another type of technology that works with the quantum realms.
Exactly.
I've heard a lot of native or Aboriginals or spiritual people talking about magic as a different type of technology, or even plant medicine like ayahuasca, mushroom. They refer to it as a type of technology, and it really is.
It is. The best definition I've heard of for magic, I prefer the term sorcery and sorcerer myself, spelled Source, because my knowledge mostly comes from source. But the best definition I've heard of magic is actually from Aleister Crowley. And he defined it as magic is the divinity of man in harmony with creation.
I mean, that's pretty close to what I've heard. You know, a lot of it is just, you know, taking that, imprinting your thoughts and wishes, desires onto your subconscious mind. So the masculine conscious mind imprints the feminine subconscious mind and then projects that out to the world around you. And then the world morphs and changes.
The universe is a reflection of the self. We lose sight of that because we're so focused on what the reflections we're seeing that we forget that we're projecting that reflection.
And so many of us are caught up in the survival, you know, just getting enough money to eat, getting enough money to keep the roof over our head, and they keep tightening the noose with, you know, hyperinflation that we're now facing. $9 for a box of eggs, you know, like how much, you know, it's
well, they'll create a new virus or a new pandemic so that they can control the supply chain. That's what they've done since the beginning of time.
Yeah, so it's all this false scarcity. Like even oil, it's one of the most abundant minerals on the planet. It's not a fossil fuel. It comes from layers way, way, way beneath where any organic life form should have been. You know, so it isn't, you know, dinosaur remains. You know, so it's abundant, but they make it sound scarce so they can put a bigger price tag and make more money on it.
The same thing applies to diamonds. Diamonds are not valuable other than the perceived value of them.
Yeah, De Beers is a Dr. Evil style corporation that had a monopoly on the diamonds, and then in cahoots with Hollywood of making it, oh, you have to have a diamond wedding ring, you have to have a diamond engagement ring, and you know, so they played off of that to make it valuable, because it's only valuable if people put value on it. So if they can use
the same thing applies to our currency. Our currency is backed by faith alone. There is nothing backing our money except our belief in it.
Well, that's not true. The American dollar is backed up by the gun behind it saying it is valuable.
That's faith.
And coercion, but yeah. But yeah, so I mean, I see how many people get sucked into the struggle of everyday life, and I'm at fault. You know, I've been stuck there. I'm working through it. And one of the realizations when I went into the Marine Corps, I had this very righteous mindset of being like Captain America, and I have to do everything right, that you know, all the time, and you know, be in this very upright, righteous position. But then I realized, you know, it's okay to be the anti-hero. You know, I don't live my life perfectly. I don't do everything perfectly all the time, but I'm working to get righteous results. I'm working to do the right thing, even though I'm not perfect. And that's
the right thing is not always love and light. Sometimes you need to be the greater evil.
Yeah, and it's not always going to be nice. Like
it's not going to be pretty. Justice is blind. There's a reason why Lady Justice in front of all the courthouses has a blindfold on. Justice is not pretty to look at.
Yeah, no. But we want to get our meat in a pretty, you know, package, you know, all saran wrapped and nice and no blood on it. You know, there's no fur and guts you had to tear off to get it. You know, now people don't want to burn gasoline, so they're going to have some power plant burn coal so they can power their car. And we didn't get our hands dirty.
Yeah, and they're not looking at the lithium mine and third world slave labor and the people that are dying there, and the fact that the lithium mines are so toxic that if a bird lands on it, the bird dies instantly. They're not telling us that part of the story.
Yeah, no. They have a pretty car that's environmentally friendly, and they didn't get their hands dirty to make it. They don't worry about those child slave laborers mining it. They don't worry about the coal being burned to power it. They're being green. So it's you know, everybody's worried about getting their hands dirty, but sometimes you got to get your hands dirty. It's just part of living in this plane.
Everything exists in darkness and light. They're both required as forces in this world.
Yeah, and nobody's perfect. You know, you know, people go, "Oh, you think you're perfect?" And I'm like, "No, I'm always in a constant state of improvement. I'm always working, learning, doing healing, doing introspection to see my flaws. I'm really flawed. I've been working to uh, ascend into a much greater consciousness, a much greater understanding of what I am. And the more you contemplate, the more you meditate, the more you do introspection, the more you realize about yourself. And the more you know you don't know. So it's amazing how
Yeah.
many people that are very unlearned, uneducated, and not even in a traditional collegiate way, but they don't know much, but they will tell you that they know everything about everything. When the more I learn, the
Only
more
a
I realize I
fool
don't know
claims to
anything.
know everything.
Yeah. And so
I know enough to know that I don't know.
exactly. And it's giving yourself permission to embrace the mystery of the universe. It's infinite. How could you possibly know
As
everything? So yeah,
yeah,
it's just
even
working to
as
be
much as
better,
I've
one
studied, I'm
little
still
step. Yeah, one
even as
little
much
step
as
at
I have
a time.
studied, yeah, even as much as I've studied, dating back to the Sumerian and Babylon teachings, the teachings of the Anunnaki, even as much as I've studied, I realize that I've only begun to touch the surface of knowledge.
Oh yeah, and that's okay. You're
Yeah,
working towards little steps of improvement, and a lot of people through oftentimes through childhood programming feel that they have to be perfect and right every time. It's giving yourself permission to be wrong, giving yourself permission to fail. I was just working on my book, and one of the things in Think and Grow Rich, they failed. The people that have been successful, like
yeah.
now they're not all nice people that were successful in Think and Grow Rich. However, the common thread amongst all of them was they failed a lot,
The
but they kept
difference
trying.
between success and failure is the amount of times you have failed.
Yeah. No one will ever be able to say I failed for lack of trying. I have tried and I've
Yeah,
tried and I've tried.
overnight successes worked for decades before they were overnight successes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and it's giving yourself permission to do that. And so many people, if you've ever been to a wedding, you've probably watched everybody kind of like looking around and like, oh, who's going to go out on the dance floor? And then that one brave, bold person goes out there, and then everybody else follows
Yep.
them out onto the dance floor. Nobody gave themselves permission to go and dance because they wanted to dance. They're waiting for others to give them permission. They're all in the flock of sheep, and they're like, are the other sheep
Yeah.
going that way? And yeah, I mean, you had an amazing story about that.
And when I was in New Orleans, when I lived there, I would frequently go out to the jazz clubs and stuff like that, and I'd dress to the nines. I would look like an old 1940s mobster, wool fedora, pinstripe suit, the whole nines, matching shoes, the whole detail, all the way down. And I was fearless when I was in that outfit. When I was looking my part and looking in my place of being old school, for lack of a better way to put it, I was fearless. I would always go out on the dance floor as soon as a good song came on. This is the dance clubs in New Orleans before Katrina. Good songs were pretty prevalent. And I'd always go out there and unquestionably every time would take the best looking girl in the room and pull her out there with me.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes a big difference. I love that classic style. Like I have a pinstripe suit and I love it. It just, I don't know. It seems like as we evolve as society, we're actually devolving. I mean, you think about back
Yeah,
in the day,
we've
everybody wore suits and ties. Now people wear sweatpants and slippers.
yeah.
People at Walmart are wearing pajamas and
Yeah, and
slippers.
we won't even start about what the fuck Crocs are.
It's part of it, it's being confident with who you are, yes, but how do you want society to perceive you? They say don't judge a book by the
Exactly. Your self-image has to be a reflection of how others see you.
Yeah. They
That's a
say,
part of living in alignment. If you want to be seen as strong and powerful, and you want to become strong and powerful, but you look like a homeless bum eating out of a dumpster, you're not going to get too strong and powerful.
yeah. They say don't judge a book by the cover, but the cover has the title on it. And then if you flip it over, it's got a summary on it too. So if someone looks like, a slob and they're overweight, and you can pretty much know they probably don't have the self-discipline to maintain their body. So if they don't have the self-discipline to maintain their body, they probably don't have the self-discipline to maintain other areas of their life too. The
Mind,
external
body, and spirit are interconnected. If they're neglecting one, they're neglecting all.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I carry a pistol on my side, oftentimes I just open carry, and people are like, "Oh, don't people call the cops on you?" Well, no. If you look like you're supposed to have a gun, people assume you're supposed to have a gun.
I've walked through the subways of Chicago with a battle-ready sword on my side without a single question asked.
Yeah. And now I had met this one fellow, and he was overweight. He just looked sloppy. His hair was a mess. He had food all stained on his t-shirt. He's wearing sweatpants, and he's like, "Oh, my gun came untucked one time, and they called the cops on me." You look pretty sus there. Like you don't look like an upstanding citizen.
Yeah, he looked more like that type of person is more likely to cause injury to themselves than others if they're carrying a weapon, or have it drawn on them because they don't even know how to use it properly.
Yeah, so in my self-defense classes, one of the biggest things is not even the actual handling of the firearm, which is very important. Don't get me wrong, but it's the mindset.
Yeah.
So people that freeze in condition black, that's when your heart rate goes above 175 beats per minute. When you hit that condition black and you're not ready for that, you're not trained to push through that. Someone pulls a gun on you, a knife on you, charges you, you go into condition black. If you're not ready for it, you're going to freeze. And then that firearm on you is not going to be an asset. It's going to be a liability, because then if they didn't have a gun on it, they can rip it off of you and use it on you. So, it's the mental mindset. Like, if you're carrying a gun, you have to be prepared to use it.
Otherwise, it's a liability.
Yeah. And training with it. If you get a new holster, you have to train with that holster. If you get a new firearm, you have to train with that firearm. You should always be proficient. This isn't just with firearms. You should be proficient in all areas of your life. America's become very lackadaisical and just, whatever, bare minimum to get through. We really need to go back to meritocracy, where it's merit-based. If you get the job, it should be you're qualified for the job, not just a shoe.
Too many people are living by the Peter principle, failing upwards.
Yeah.
And that applies to edged weapons too. Everyone talks about how dangerous guns are, but the truth of the matter is a gun can only attack from one direction, just where the trigger is pointed. A knife or a sword can attack from any direction. This is why I train in weapons that are edged weapons more than I do with firearms. It's more in alignment with who I am, and if I'm in a position where I have to defend myself, I want to be close enough that I have the accountability of watching the life drain from their being.
Yeah.
Firearms and guns are wonderful for long distance range. They serve a purpose for military defense and whatever else. But hand to hand, up close and personal, honestly, guns are less dangerous than knives.
It depends on your training. I mean, I like
on the average, because most people don't have the proper training with a firearm for up close.
Yeah. That's a very specialized skill set, which most instructors don't even go to.
Exactly.
But there's been multiple times where I've been hiking and, a mountain lion starts coming after me. And I'm very grateful to have a very high caliber pistol on me as opposed to just a knife. Now,
I understand that. And it depends on what the adversary is too.
Yeah. Now,
a mountain lion is different than a person.
Yeah. That being said, they say don't take a knife to a gunfight, but if you're up close, I push that gun out of the way, or I lock your arm up with that gun, or knock that gun out of your hand. My knife is right here, and I can, neck, game over.
Or sever the artery on the hand so they can't pull the trigger.
Yeah.
That takes 3 seconds.
I mean, the one time I had the hit squad out after me in Mexico, the guy had the gun to Deanna's head, my friend, and he turned his back to me. I had my knife on me. I could have just come up from behind and slit his throat. However, there was, the other guy could have had a gun and shot me. If I messed up, he could have killed Deanna. So it's always measuring each situation. Then the message came through, hey, I can just bribe him with all my possessions. I had my pack, I had cameras, I had phones. I'm like, here, take this. And I was able to buy our way out of the situation. And it's like, why risk life when it's just material things? I can replace those.
Exactly. There is a time to fight and a time not to fight. If you can avoid being in a physical conflict, that is always the preferred solution.
Absolutely. I do my best to de-escalate any situations, or, just not even put myself in those situations. A lot of bad situations could be avoided by just not inserting yourself into those situations.
And by just being conscious and mindful of the world around you.
Yeah. And not walking around with the chip on your shoulder.
Yeah. Not claiming to be a ascended angel or high-level ranking military executive or whatever if you're not able to live up to it.
Yeah. So, that was fun when we were doing the sword training out there. One of the last times I was out there. You're very skilled with the weapon. Yeah, that was ridiculous. It was cold, and you clipped my knuckle, and I saw blood, and I thought I had hit your ear when I went for the neck strike. But it actually turned out my hand was dripping blood all over the place. That was funny.
And in true Brian fashion, no panic. Let's rip the shirt off and draw a sigil on our chest to mark the battle wound.
Yeah, I took it. I'm wiping it on my face, and then you had the great idea to get some pictures, and those were epic pictures. Very Viking-esque. We've had some good times. I'm looking forward to coming back out. This is going to be amazing. There's just something special and sacred about the land out west. It's amazing out there.
Definitely. All of it out in the mountains area, all of Colorado pretty much, other than Colorado Springs and Denver, which are portals to hell, but that's another story.
Yeah, don't worry about the airport.
Yeah. Fly into one of the small airports instead. You'll be happier there.
Yeah. I can't believe they literally have the Horse of the Apocalypse statue there.
Oh, they have Baphomet statue there.
Oh, I didn't realize that one.
Yeah, it's in the basement. They don't talk about it, but yeah, they've got Baphomet statue there.
Is that out in the view of public, or is that?
If you know where to look, yes.
Yeah. Evil isn't hiding anymore.
No, it's not. And the sad truth is most of the evil is every bit as much falling under the spiritual or religious community. There's just as much evil in those who claim to be the love and light tribe as there is in the others.
Unfortunately, that's very true. There's a lot of wolves in sheep clothing. I've done exorcisms for a girl that was satanic ritually abused in the basement of a Baptist church.
Yeah.
There's so many, hippy dippies of love and light, and they go to the rainbow gatherings and they're just predators, either energetically feeding on people or actually literally predating on the hippies that are inebriated. There's all these hippie chicks on drugs, and they prey upon that.
Yeah.
So there's nowhere safe, and the problem is you'll have bad people anywhere, but you have good people everywhere. Like it's
you do, and sometimes those good people and bad people are the same person. It just depends on the day they're having, the energy they're having, what they're going through, and whatever.
Yeah. We've been pitted and propagandized to hate the especially in World War II. Oh, those Germans are evil people, or oh, those Japanese are evil people. But for the most part, people are just people. They want to live a happy life and raise their family. But it's the organizations in charge, the people behind the curtain pulling the puppet strings, that create these unnecessary conflicts.
Plus the doctrines and dogmas that they're being brainwashed into.
Yeah. And a lot of the guys, when I was in the Marine Corps, people go, "Oh, you're brainwashed." No, we aren't. Like knee-jerk reaction. But then looking back at it, now that I have a greater grasp upon psychology, hypnosis, programming, oh yeah, hardcore programmed, and especially.
And that's not including all the pharmaceuticals and pills and other things they gave you that they don't even tell you what they are.
Yeah, no, I looked at my medical chart, and it just says series 1, 2, 3, and 4 vaccines. And I didn't know what that was, but it's whatever freaking cocktail of vaccine they wanted to throw at you that day. They put the ones that it's dangerous to repeat. So there are some that are listed out what they are, but then the other ones, they don't tell you what it is, but they know what it is when they say series 1, series 2, series 3, 4. They know what they gave at that period of time, and it's probably not always the same. So they can check the date, check that series, and even probably that batch number, or that enlistment period.
Honestly, I don't even think all the doctors that are administering it know what they're giving fully.
No. They probably are just told
they're just as puppeted as the soldiers.
Yeah. It's really crazy. And when you sign up, with the best of intentions to protect, the free people of the world, you realize you're just basically protecting rich people's assets, unfortunately. And so many of the, the Marines and other service members had the best of intentions going in, and are some of the most noble and honorable people. And unfortunately, a lot of them get jaded when they see the curtain pull back and see what it really is. See the puppet,
the truth, the
puppet master. So there's a puppet master for the puppet master's puppet master. It's
And there's level upon level upon layer upon layer upon layer. There are very few people involved in the process that know the whole process.
Oh yeah. Like the president has a very high security level, security clearance,
and he knows nothing.
Yeah, but there's who was it that admitted? I think it was Musk. Didn't he come out and say, "I have clearances that are secret," or so? He said something about he's got top secret security clearances that are classified, so we don't even know about those. And it's been leaked. Sometimes you got Q clearance, you got all these levels above top secret, and some of them are so classified that the uninitiated don't even know that those security clearances exist.
Oh yeah, there's black ops listings and security clearances that are not even registered.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see when the DoD gets audited. There's going to be a lot of.
I wouldn't be surprised if another missile strike hit the DoD audit department and happened to destroy the records of the audit.
It's going to be interesting to see the outcome of what's coming. I don't know.
And even if they do release information, I have a feeling that it will be plausible deniability. It'll be controlled opposition. They will release what they want to release, but not everything.
Yeah. And I mean, they might be able to find the money and where it's going, but it's going to be funneled to a shell corp that is
exactly. It's going to be layers upon layers upon layers of deception.
Yeah. So I see we have one live viewer right now. If you want, throw up a comment. We can answer any questions for you if you have any. I can't see who they are, but someone's there watching. So did you have
It doesn't have to be about military and politics. It can be about anything.
Yeah, anything. So did you have any topics you wanted to talk about or address, or save that for another day? We are still on for Wednesday at 6:30 Eastern time.
Yes, and let's do a pre-show discussion so that we can have like a structured composition on what we're going to at least start with.
Yeah, we can talk about that. And anyone has suggestions, feel free to message us. It's easier when you ask questions and we can answer them for you. Coming up with topics is, we know so much. It's like, which grain of sand do you want to see in the desert? We have a whole desert full of grains of sand. So if you ask questions, we can get you some really good answers and inspire new topics. And if you have the question, I'm sure other people have the question as well.
The latest thing that I've been studying is I came across a book that is supposed to be transcribed from what is called the Anunnaki's Ulema. It is a series of mental practices and constructs that the Anunnaki are said to have provided that provides pretty much borderline immortality and almost a lot of like supernatural abilities, like telepathy, teleportation. I mean, on down the rabbit hole on things that we have been told exist, but we don't really have any training for. But I stumbled on a book that actually has what they propose as training for it. So I'm in the process of reading that and composing it into a more organized setting so that it's more applicable.
Yeah. I'm excited to read that book. That sounds pretty amazing. So we did get a comment from Jessica Casper. She says, aloha, just curious. So what's the channel about? Well, we talk about everything spiritual. It's to free the mind, help people actualize their potential and see what's truly possible. So we cover a broad depth of topics, anything to help free people from the prison of the mind. So it might seem kind of scattered, but there is reason to the madness. And then she said, been pondering the 3 days of darkness. If you're still listening, can you please clarify that question? I've heard of that. Some people say it's going to be a power outage. Some people say it's going to be an internet blackout, information blackout. But that's kind of
the Vikings say it's 3 days where Fenrir the Great Wolf covers the sun. I believe that it was just foretelling of a solar eclipse.
Yeah, I mean it could be 3 days of terrible events. So it's really hard to say what it's referring to. Just like the mark of the beast.
Also realize that most information that is given of a nature of that type, something which is pondering the imponderable and claiming to reveal mysteries of doom and whatever, are more often than not programmed ideologies that are put out there just to create fear.
Yeah. I mean, so much fear porn out there to get people in a state of fear, and that makes them controllable. So if they can tell them, there's this terrible cataclysmic event coming, it makes them more controllable.
Oh no, Mercury's in retrograde again.
Yeah, or on a lot of the conspiracy channels or alternative news channels, they'll kind of peddle fear porn and then
Oh,
sell you survival
absolutely, yeah.
products for when society collapses. Listening to some channels, green light, heart realignment, yada yada. Okay, yeah, it. More information is always better, and you just have to use discernment to see if it resonates as true or not. And
And
sometimes,
realize that, go ahead
oh,
and
go ahead.
finish.
And sometimes it may be a partial truth or maybe an
That most
incomplete
people are
truth.
channeling information have no reference or clarity for what that source is.
So Jessica said, preparing for an enlightening event myself. Well, you don't have to wait for it. You can work towards it. The more you
Make it
learn, the
happen.
more you
Put
grow.
yourself in alignment.
What was that? You broke up. We didn't hear what you said.
I said, prepare yourself. Don't just prepare yourself for it. Make it happen. Put yourself in alignment and put yourself in acceptance of it. Don't wait for it to come to you. Bring it to you.
Yeah. So doing your inner work, working on yourself, having that very, a lot of introspection to see where you're deficient, where you're good at, and bringing up your deficiencies, clearing out the mental chatter, all that will prepare you. Now, that being said, the sun is spitting out more and more energy, and that's causing the Schumann resonance of the earth to raise. So the tide raises all boats. As the Schumann resonance and vibration frequency increases, everyone on that boat will raise. The tide raises all boats. So everyone's, the collective vibration, the collective frequency of the human consciousness is raising. And as you raise their vibration, the level of consciousness increases. So as you notice, we can talk about these topics on air right now without people thinking we're crazy. If we were to do this a decade or 2 decades ago, we'd be locked up in a padded room.
I still talk about things people think I'm crazy for.
You are correct. I'm working at this right. Yeah. So, yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're having this conversation with us. It always makes it much more interesting when we get feedback, and it sounds like you're on the path to that. And it's my favorite is to work with the mind. I used to do sound healing and energy work with the body, even herbs and physical stuff like Bowen or cranial sacral. But my favorite tool is working with the mental body, because if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime. So aligning people's energy or fixing their aches and pains, yes, I'm giving them a fish. I'm feeding them for that day. But if I can get the mental blocks out of their way and give them right thinking, get rid of the trauma that's holding them back, get rid of the mental blocks, the feelings of inadequacy. If I can use hypnosis or other mental tools to push that out, or NLP to get rid of those blocks and clear them out of the way, then all of a sudden, if you get the mental body lined, they can fix everything else, and it's feeding a man for a lifetime.
And understand that your thoughts and ideas can change too. Your values can change. Your beliefs can change. We have the power of free will. And with that power, we have the ability to transform and to adapt as new knowledge is brought forth, as new ideals and beliefs are brought forth, and to accept that sometimes what we've been told for all of our life may not even be true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. And it's giving yourself permission to change as well. So many people made a decision and they're stuck with that decision, whether it's a career path, a job, a house, a region they're living in. Give yourself permission to change your mind and make choices. Choose to do something. And if that no longer suits you, Give yourself permission to change your mind. Don't make a decision and lock yourself into something that you'll regret in the future.
Yes.
Goals, all that sounds fab, centered on healing and bringing to balance my cortisol levels at this point as I see them causing mental blocks. How do I find this channel on the regular? What time is it usually happening? Well, we're just kind of working the bugs out right now, but Wednesday we're going to be on again at 6:30 Eastern time. The Infinite Love Movement, or it might just be Infinite Love, on YouTube or on my Facebook. I stream to my Facebook and the Infinite Love page. I don't know if we have any of your pages hooked up yet, but we're going to be on Rumble too. I had it streaming to the Rumble channel. However, it doesn't seem to work, or something technical difficulty. But my Facebook, feel free to add me on Facebook, Brian Daniel Edwards. I can answer any questions. I can even do sessions for you if you'd like. I will be having retreats and workshops coming up soon. I don't have any on the books yet right now, but it's in the works to be set up soon. Is your Facebook up and running? Did you get logged back into that?
Nope.
Okay. So if they want to reach out to you, how can they get a hold of you?
My website is the best way. There's a contact link and a contact form on there, and email and whatever. And that is Sacred Sorcery, SOURCERY.co.site.
Okay, can you spell that again for me?
SACRED SOURCERY.
Okay.
.co.site.
Okay, I put that in the comments.
Yes, correct.
Okay. For some reason, I don't. It went through on YouTube. It didn't go on Facebook. I don't know why. I got a technical message, but I posted his link in the comments. So if you want to get a hold of him, feel free. He's a wealth of knowledge, especially with a lot of the ancient stuff, going all the way back to Sumeria and the ancient texts. So he's a wealth of, and especially ritual magic, breaking any black magic. He's excellent at that. He's my go-to guy for that sort of thing. So
I'm pretty much the go-to guy. Anybody I know in the spiritual community that they come against something where it's like, oh shit moments, they're like, hey, let's call him.
Yeah. There's been many times where we've tag team situations where it was pretty hairy, and working through it together, we got through it. And that's a huge point to make as well.
One of the more...
Oh, what was that?
One of the more recent examples, a few months ago, when we had the other healer that contacted you, that their fiance had drawn up a black magic contract with them in blood and bound a demon to them.
Yeah, that was crazy. And you did some, pulled some strings behind the scenes to get that reversed. And the next day, he slit his hand open and wrote out the contract in blood to release her from the original blood contract. He sold his soul to bind her in the original contract. He was that deranged and that bad. We'll just simplify it to bad. That he drew up a blood contract and sold his soul to bind her. But then after you worked your magic, the very next morning, he wrote up another contract releasing her, signed and written in his own blood. So you get results. You get some pretty heavy results with getting rid of black magic and dealing with that realm. Yeah. So, and that's another good point. You don't have to go it alone. If you don't know which way to go, it's okay to reach out for help, and make sure that they feel genuine, feel real, they resonate with you, and you can feel that their words resonate with the truth. So always have discernment, because there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, especially in the love and light community. And
do not be afraid of anything. Fear is a natural response, but fear is a programmed response.
Yeah.
There are people out there, I'm an example of it, that are pretty fearless. And there are people that are stronger than whoever is causing problems for you, even if it's a demon or a voodoo spell or whatever. There are people like me out there that do have the faith, the conviction, and the training to deal with pretty much anything.
Yeah. I mean, they're not pretty to deal with. The darkness is oftentimes ugly, but they're not stronger than you are. It's really they use fear to bully people. Yeah, I mean, it might be, it's like mosquitoes. They can be painful and annoying, but one swat and they're gone. So oftentimes with these dark entities, yeah, they'll plague you, they'll drain you, they'll oppress you, they'll harass you, but it might take a little bit to clear them, but they can't usually harm you. They can hurt you, but they can't harm you.
Important also to be mindful of not everything in the spiritual community that presents itself as angelic or Christ consciousness or whatever is also helpful. Perfect example of that, they've recently uncovered new information that John Dee, the astrologer for Queen Elizabeth back in the 14th century, who was the one who channeled the information for Enochian magic, which is supposed to be the way to contact the angels, to work with the angels in magic. They've revealed information that he was actually talking to one of the archons and not an angel at all. And the archons are the controllers. They're the ones that are here to manipulate and deceive people and to weaken them. So people have been practicing what they believe to be angelic magic for 500 years and are actually just working on the same forces that are trying to control us.
Unfortunately, that's true. Just because you contact another being on the other side doesn't mean they're going to be truthful. They oftentimes will appear as something else and masquerade as something of the light, but they're actually not beneficent. They're not good sometimes.
And that goes down to mediumship and whatever. There are so many people out there that are channeling light messages and channeling medium messages and whatever else, like Bashar and whatever other clowns you want to talk about. And none of them have any credibility. None of them do any work to discern what they're speaking of or what they're speaking from. None of them have been trained how to properly call forth a spirit and to command it to speak in truth.
Yeah. I was traveling with a cryptid and paranormal investigation unit. My friend Johnny in Australia, she's great. We're going to get her on the show soon. So many cool stories with her. But we went to this abandoned train tunnel, and there was a ghost of a little girl. And I'm like, okay, a child should not be stuck here. Children usually don't have addictions or things that would hold them into this space. They usually just go off into the light. I'm like, why are you still here? So I opened up a portal, tried to send her home, and the demon jumped out, and it freaked some of the other people in the group out. And I'm like, okay, thank you for revealing yourself. Leave us alone or I'm going to deal with you. And it did not leave us alone. So I crossed it over. But oftentimes when you have a haunted house with ghosts of a little child, it's demons masquerading as children. It's not usually
or as Christ or as archangels or angels or whatever. Christ does not look like the pictures of him. That's our Nicholas II. The archangels and the angels are not beautiful beings. They are not this glowing light energy of magnificence that we see. That's all propaganda. The true form of the angels is terrifying.
So Married to Meat got reminded of my cortisol fight or flight as I choose to be in play to change myself. Memorizing lines, one boy speaking on that. Oh, maybe she meant, oh boy, speaking on that. I do have to get ready for practice. I am interested in what you speak of. Thank you. Creating great, feeling blessed, buoyant right now. Cortisol levels, just really quick before you go, the first thing that comes to mind, ashwagandha. That's really good. And if you can get pepperin along with it, or black pepper extract, sometimes they pair those two. The pepperin blocks the enzyme in the liver that would break it down. Same thing with turmeric, and it makes it more bioavailable. So it amplifies the effects of it. L-theanine is good to kind of calm the nervous system, and if you drink a lot of caffeine, it counteracts the negative side effects of that. Meditation, just clear your mind, calm down. And a very deep spiritual adage I learned was in scuba diving, believe it or not. So, their example is if you're scuba diving and you get stuck in coral or a rope wrapped around your leg, don't panic. Stop, think, do I have air? Look at your air gauge. Yes, I'm okay. So many people get caught up in the survival. Oh, I have, my rent is due next week and I got to pay my cell phone after that. And I got to wait, stop. Do you have air to breathe? Are you okay? So do you have, food right now? Do you have a roof over your head right now? Yes, you're okay. You have air to breathe. You're okay. You can work towards dealing with the future. But oftentimes anxiety is worrying about what hasn't come yet to pass, or depression is also oftentimes lamenting over the past. So if you can be present and centered, that'll definitely help with that as well.
Yes, living in the now is a huge step, not just in meditation, but in daily life. If you can let go of the past, it no longer controls you because it only exists in the mind. If you can let go of the fears of the future, it can no longer control you because it only exists in the mind. Yeah. By living in the eternally fleeting present moment, you can eliminate 99% of your concerns and stresses.
Absolutely. She said, yep, ashwagandha, never heard of pepperin, doing turmeric and ashwagandha presently. Oftentimes, if you get a supplement with turmeric or ashwagandha, they'll just have black pepper extract in it, which the active ingredient is the pepperin in it. Well, we are at about an hour. We can bring this episode to conclusions.
I think that's all right, yeah. And just put a message out there next Tuesday or whatever that we'll be talking Wednesday, and by then we'll know an idea what concept we're going for and whatever else so that we can start marketing properly.
She said, okay, was thinking that might be. I add black pepper. Thanks. Yeah, you're very welcome. And if you have any more questions, toss them up there. We can answer them really quick for you, or feel free to message us. Again, I'm Brian Daniel Edwards on Facebook. I'll get my website up and running, but until then, feel free to message me on Facebook, Instagram, same name. And then, he's got his website up there. So yeah, feel free to reach out to either of us. We'd be happy to answer your questions. And if you'd like, do sessions. If stress and cortisol levels, I can do hypnosis to kind of reduce the stress, clear out some of the fears, phobias, limiting beliefs that are causing that stressful state, and trauma. If it's a trauma-based thing, we can go back, do a trauma healing, soul retrieval, coupled with hypnosis to kind of heal the things that arise from that. And you have a lot of magical ways to deal with things as well. So yeah,
I'm in the process of putting a systemology together based on the teachings, one of the teachings that were in the Anunnaki Alima book that I just got, which basically what it does is it creates a mental construct, and you go back to the point where you are triggered or to where the trauma event happened, and you recreate the event in your mind and connect to the energies of the transformed event and not the traumatic event, so that it allows you to break free from the trauma. I've done a similar concept before in the past with a colleague of mine that has precognitive dreams. And they had a dream where their fiance was killed. And I brought them back in a meditative state to their dream and changed the events that happened with their assistance so that their fiance wasn't killed, and they're still happily married.
Yeah, rescripting is a big part of it. So I started out just doing the trauma healing and soul retrieval integration, but then the mental burden of knowing that event happened is still weighing on your subconscious mind. So if you can go back and rewrite that event and live it,
exactly, and it doesn't have to be a dramatic change. It can be a very subtle change that's easy to believe.
Yeah. And so you'll still have physical memory of that event, conscious memory of that event, but
your reaction will be different.
Yeah, rescripting it in your subconscious mind will have a whole massive, profound impact on your life. So that's very important, that technique. Okay, well, I guess we will conclude. Do you have any last questions, Jessica? We're going to wrap up here. Oh, okay.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone that watches this video, same goes to you. Feel free to reach out if you want or need any help. We can do the healing for you. We can take you through sessions, answer any questions. I mean, we've talked about a lot of interesting and complicated topics, and if you want clarification on any of them, or if we can answer any questions, feel free to reach out. If anybody else is watching, throw a question up there in the comments. If not, hey, our inboxes are fair game. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to help you.
That's why we're here.
Yeah. I mean, that's our path. We're really in this path, and we've kind of been tasked with helping people along. And so that's why we're
I'm the go-to when they get too deep down the rabbit hole and they get buried in darkness.
Yeah. Unfortunately, some people go down the wrong path and get misled, and then get jump into the deep end of the pool. And you definitely help with the magic there.
I'm the life preserver.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me pull up the closing. Okay, well, wait, which one is which? Okay, I think I got it. If I played the wrong one, it's the Ascension cast, not spinning yarn, but I have a little bit of work to do on my back end over here in the suite. But thank you so much, everyone, for watching. You really make it interesting when you interact with us, help guide our conversations. That really makes for a very interesting show. Did you have any final comments?
I think we covered things fairly well.
Yeah.
Keep an open mind. Don't believe everything you hear.
Yeah. Just listen to your intuition. Someone asked me, if you're to start over again and you could give yourself one piece of information, it's trust yourself. You already know. So it's listening to your intuition. You'll be led down the path. Oh, you have to get this initiation, that initiation. You have to study that, study this. But really, you have a deep connection to the divine in your heart. Just listen to it. It's always there.
On that topic, though, if you are working with supernatural and occult forces, a proper initiation may not be required, but there is a high level of commitment and conviction that is required. That is what is the original purpose of the initiations.
Yeah.
And even in the occult communities, that is often overlooked today because of their instant gratification desire. And even when you're calling on the angels and the archangels, if you're working with something and you do not take the time to establish a rapport with them and establish trust and credibility with them and to establish that they are what they present themselves as, your results are not going to be consistent.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, and everybody, thank you for watching. You're the reason for the show. We're here to help you. This show is about the audience and helping you on your ascension path. So feel free to reach out, ask us any questions, add us on Facebook, go to his website. He's up in the comments, his website. So thank you for watching, and love and light to you all. Aloha.
We hope you enjoyed this video session. Please support the Infinite Love Movement by liking, sharing, and subscribing to our channel. Visit theinfinitelovemovement.org to sign up for healing sessions, classes, and events with Brian.